Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday live stream. Another day for us to essentially go down. Unfortunately, it's another one of those days where we are seeing a reduction in the action of the markets, and it's not going to be the last. I still say we've got a lot of downside to go. Anyhow, here's what we have for today. First of all, I created this GPT in ChatGPT, and what it would do is it would give me just a basic rundown of what's going on in the crypto market. If you haven't tried this, it's very easy to do. Just do some prompts, put it in there, save it, run a GPT, and it remembers everything. I got to tell you, I'm fascinated by AI, but it's got a long way to go. From what it pulled for today, it talks about how Bitcoin rallies, and I just pulled this like 2 minutes ago. Bitcoin rallies back over 90,000 as alts see modest gains. This is a good one. Bitcoin, Ethereum ETFs see over 500 million outflows, while XRP and Solana funds buck the sell-off. And I'm like, ooh, that's great. And then, of course, something about Hashkey. And I was like, this must be a reasonable day. And I look at the price. I'm like, what the heck were they talking about? In the last 24 hours, Bitcoin, I want to say it went to 84,000. I guess not. Last, let's zoom in, shall we? In, well, almost 85,373. And then across the board, as far as Ethereum down almost 5%, BNB, pretty horrible day, I mean, for altcoins. And of course, Bitcoin has been having that downward slide. And like I've talked about before, I think it's going to get worse going all the way through December. Why is that? Exchanges want it that way. And this really comes down to, I mean, I'm not a big manipulation guy, but I got to tell you, things are really lining up in a specific way. This is from Commissioner. You guys need to follow them. They're fantastic. It says here, this was just a couple hours ago. When was this actually? Posted at 2 p.m., so roughly 2 hours ago. You can't make this up. Bitcoin just surged $3,000, up $3,000 in 1 hour, and reclaimed 90,000 as 120 million worth of leveraged shorts were liquidated. Yay! No one likes shorts. They're betting against us. They're the evil people of all time. They're the bears. However, minutes later, 200 million worth of levered longs were liquidated, with Bitcoin down to 86,000. So it went up to 90,000, had a nice little 3,000 run, and of course it goes down. So it sweeps the high, hits the lows, and everybody gets liquidated, and that's pretty much what's going on. And who is the ones to actually profit from that? That's the question that you have to ask yourself. And you know the answer already. So it could just be an exchange thing. It could be just that levered players that are on the open interest going 10, 20, 50x, getting liquidated left and right because they are desperate to make back any types of gains. It's like when I lived in Las Vegas. I would see this all the time. People would lose their shirt on one play, on one hand, or over so many hours, and they would just go all in and go all in and go all in. And at the end, they would lose everything. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I think people are just going to keep playing the levered game until they can't play anymore. And for you, I say, good luck. Best of luck to you. But I know how this story ends. I've seen it many times in Las Vegas. And it's the same thing repeating over again because everybody's a bunch of gamblers. Not everybody. I mean, you're not. You're here right now. So that's what we have for that. And how bad was it? Well, it wasn't that awful. If we take a look at the 24-hour rect or who got liquidated, roughly $500 million were actually liquidated. So, I mean, these days, that would have been a lot of funds back in 2022, 2023. But these days, $500 million, like whatever, not a big deal. And if we just take a look here, go down to take a look over time, you can just see that this is barely a blip for this time frame. So if we're taking a look at this of course is 16th December. This was, how much was yesterday? Oh, look at that, 148 million. How about this one over here? Yeah, and this one just a couple of days ago, 14th of December, there was again 496 million liquidated in longs, 97 million in short, which is even more so. And it just dwarfs a comparison to the big event that was, it says October 9th, but everything happened October 10th or 10/10 when everybody got liquidated. So how much interest is there? How much are people gambling with their crypto, their digital assets? There's a great website. Well, it's the same one, coinglass.com. Take a look at open interest. And you can just see on all the different exchanges how much open interest is actually there, who's longing and shorting. That's a kind of a good general way to take a look at things. And you can just see that as far as like with CME, you've got, oh wow, all in all, you're looking at $57 billion worth of open interest, longs and shorts and everything else. But what's interesting to me is that you can see that as the price goes up, this is in yellow, Bitcoin price, it follows along with the open interest. Who wants to gamble on all this stuff? And it just keeps playing out. And when people start to come over here and they say, you know what, I lost a bunch, I need to come get back in the game. And they do it, they just lose again and again. So I hate to break this to people, but this is not going to stop until people stop gambling. And I'm pretty sure it was going to keep going down, and keeps going down. And that's what's going to happen. So how do you play that? Well, my response is very simple. We'll take a look at some risk levels later. But that's my question to you. How do you play this? Do you look at this and you think to yourself, this is the worst thing of all time? Do you do nothing and just sit in the background, which is a viable option? Do you start to sell and layer out? Another option you can do. Or do you start to buy more? I'm just curious what everybody else does, because what I do, my goals aren't your goals. So it's just interesting to see what everybody else is doing out there. Anyhow, so we have that, shorts and longs liquidated. Also, ETFs are getting blown out. It looks like as far as like yesterday, we don't have the data for today, but apparently today's pretty bad from what I understand, from what the different posts are. But yesterday we had an outflow, negative $277 million worth of Bitcoin sold off. Day before that, so you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So Monday, you had 357 million sold off. Friday, you had a gain, and before that, you had a loss. There's a lot of outflow of ETFs. People are scared. They want to sell off. And what's interesting to me is that BlackRock, which has been pretty steady, is the one that's been selling off quite a bit. So it makes you wonder if we should have gotten to bed with those guys as far as like what they were doing as far as the ETF. But hey, it's people want an ETF. They grab an ETF. They go to their provider. They go to the ones that give them these different advices, BlackRock, Fidelity, Bitwise. It's fine. And you just see that there's quite a bit of outflow. And the leading, I guess, outflower would be BlackRock, even though that wasn't the case before. Also, let's take a look at Ethereum, ETF flows. Didn't actually look at this. I'm curious. Oh, yeah, look at that. It's even worse. So, yeah, let's see, 11th December, 12th, 15th, 16th, just 4 straight days of nothing but junk just crashing down. That's interesting. You had 224 million and then 224.2 million one day after the other. So Ethereum not looking so hot. Again, altcoins are going to pay the price. What about Solana? How's that doing? Pretty good. Look at that. It actually has a positive flow of, I mean, don't laugh. It's 3.6 million, 3.6 million. I'll say 3.6 million. And then just on Monday, you had a net positive inflow of 35.2. So congratulations to Solana ETF holders. Looks like it's working out for you in some way, shape, and form. However, the overall price of Solana is down quite substantially. So there is the liquidations. Then, of course, we have the issues with the ETF flows. And of course, on Friday is going to come the thing that everybody seems to be scared S-less about, which is the Bank of Japan raising rates. And for the last about 15 years or so, you had 0% rates. You had essentially free money, and the people were doing the yen carry trade. And they were getting cheap fiat, cheap currency, which was the yen, borrowing against it at 0%, putting it in everything else. Unfortunately, once they raise those rates, then you have to potentially pay that back, and it costs even more. So it was 0.25 and 0.5, and now everybody's losing their mind for another 25 basis point raise, which is going to happen on Friday. So once we get past Friday, maybe we'll have a little bit of a relief rally, but right now everybody's scared, mindless about the Bank of Japan raising rates. We'll see what happens with the hedge funds. And lastly, Trump. So I don't know what's going on, but this was a post over at Truth Social. This was last night. He states, "My fellow Americans, I'll be giving an address to the nation tomorrow night live from the White House, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Right now, that is it's almost 5 p.m. here in Puerto Rico, so that means roughly 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're 1 hour ahead, 6 months out of the year. Yeah, it's true. And yeah, we'll see what happens in, gosh, what is that, 4 or 5 hours or so from here. I look forward to seeing you there. It's been a great year for our country and the best yet to come. Now, when this was posted last night in the morning, if you followed everybody on X, they're like, oh, everybody's going to buy. It's going to be the greatest thing of all time. And guess what? It was the exact opposite. And things were getting dumped like crazy. And actually, in the morning, I thought it was funny that people were saying that, because in the morning we were at a reasonable 87,000. We were up 0.1%. So everybody was like, this is great. I'm like, that's not good. This is probably going to keep getting worse. And here we are. So again, however it is for you, let me know in the comments section. I would say for me, again, I remain short-term bearish, but I buy Bitcoin every day. And because of that, I do what's called dynamic DCAing. And I get a lot of questions about this. I don't know. I mean, there's a video I did about dynamic DCAing. It's in the description of every video I do. It's under the Crypto Critical videos. And a lot of the questions get, hey, I like those risk levels. Do they have risk levels for altcoins? Yeah, they're right here. So like Ethereum has a risk level 0.5. BNB is pretty low. That's good for me because I've been buying Binance, BNcoin. Sounds crazy, I know. But I still say it's the best, which is Binance, Ethereum, Solana, Tron. Also, I will be unveiling a partnership with a specific exchange, which is going to be offering you the BEST in a lump. It's I'll talk about this in the next on Friday. I believe I can reveal that, who the exchange is that I'm working with, to allow that to give you guys that option. Anyhow, XRP is risk level 0.5. Solana 0.4. I mean, you can read. This is not tough. Cardano's, I think, one of the worst ones, 0.29, because it's just been bleeding like crazy. And, oh, hey, Ben also put in risk levels for how do you do 0.5 for Tesla when it just hit an all-time high? That's weird. Anyhow, that's what we have. And then for me, like I said, once this risk level goes below 0.4 into 0.3s, then I triple my buys daily for Bitcoin and go from there. Now, before we get into the Q&A, and I got to get out of here. I got some things to do tonight. No, it's not Kraken. Actually, maybe it is Kraken. So there's one more thing to talk about, which is, I know people will say, well, Rob, if you're so convinced about the 4-year cycles, like I keep talking about, why don't you just follow the 4-year cycles and just wait and just wait for 1 year from October 6, 2025 to October 6, 2026, and then start buying, because that's typically when we hit the low. And it's true. I should do that. However, things are a little bit different this time. This was a little bit of a wonky, different 4-year cycle. However, it did work out so far. Q4 was the all-time high, 1 year post-halving. Got it. But there's a lot of things that we're going in the background. You know, maybe liquidity gets pushed up. This might be like, as I think Ben talks about, you know, this is the time when it almost feels like 2019. And why is that? It's because of stuff like this. So we have here, you know, 2019 in August, quantitative tightening ended, just like quantitative tightening ended in December 1st. Rate cuts started to happen, just like we are going through rate cuts specifically right now. And funny enough, for those 6, 7, 8 months or so, we saw Bitcoin's price decline. And it went down pretty precipitously. You can see here that, I don't know what it was in August 2019. Gosh, was it this low? 2019 was, yeah, it was. Look at that. $7,400. Wow. It went from, no, I should say this correctly. It went from roughly 13,000 and dropped down to, wow, about 50% or so. What a drop from the peak here to down here, 50%. So we're talking about $125,000. We're looking at 62,500. Yeah. So if we could drop down to 62,500, that'd be great. But I mean, for you who want to accumulate, for people who are wanting to sell, it's like the worst news you can possibly hear. But it did go back up, and off you go. So for me, I look at this and I go, well, it does match 2019, relatively, quantitative tightening, quantitative easing. Although there is one thing to state here. See how it took 8 months to start quantitative easing? We've already started that. The Federal Reserve, did they not buy back bonds? Did they not put them on the balance sheet? That's quantitative easing. So we've already started that. Rate cuts have already been going on for quite some time. So it's similar, but not an exact replica. Gotcha, right? But then people say, but Rob, you know, remember Banana Zone and PMI and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. I mean, the PMI here, if we take a look, they talk about how it's one more year out, and PMI, once it goes above 50, that means expansion. And right now we were hovering around the 48, 49 level. So we need to get above 50 and then blow off top of 55. Okay, this is for this is ISM manufacturing PMI, and manufacturing is, just so everybody knows, not a huge, massive GDP for our economy. We used to be big in manufacturing, and then we let every other country run with it, and that China takes over in India. Manufacturing is 11, 13% of the US economy. Think of factories, production, inventories, et cetera. ISM services, that's the majority of our economy, 70% of the US economy. Restaurants, healthcare, finance, tech, transportation, travel, consulting, et cetera. And they have actually gone above 50. So there is a little bit of an expansion. But I talked about this yesterday, and I forgot to mention this specific part. There's a report that came out just yesterday, Tuesday, December 16th, and it's the S&P Flash US Services PMI. Flash means that it's not set in stone. This is just a basic preliminary report. But US Services PMI, US Manufacturing PMI, again, services, 70% of our economy, manufacturing, 11, 13%. We're going to see over here that the numbers were actually pretty darn expansive. Previously, 54 and 52 respectively, we expected 54 and 52.5. We got 52.9 and 51.8. Even though it is a reduction, it is somewhat of an expansion. So if we're looking at that, and we're looking at some other parts of this, let's say like the liquidity, like I've told before, M2 money supply is at all-time high for the United States. M2 global money supply is at an all-time high for the world. So like when I look at this, I'm like, how much do we possibly need to get us to get an all-time high? We are 33% down from our all-time high right now. And you're telling me that we have nothing but cash just floating out there, sloshing around, probably sitting around in money market funds, but of course finding its way to AI because AI actually delivered. All this sloshing around, and I just think to myself, as far as like PMI and stuff, I'm like, how hot does it have to get for us just to reach an all-time high? So that's my thesis. I still think we're going to go down, and I will continue to buy, and we'll see how it works out. That's it for today. So look, like today's video, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. We talk about is time sensitive, but that's it for this one. If you want to stick around, I'll answer all your questions to the best of my abilities, and we'll go from there. All right, here we go. Lone Wolf was in the shower. Well, let's just redo this whole video so we can catch up. Just kidding, Lone Wolf. Here's what it was. Rob talks very bearish, but still buys Bitcoin. That's pretty much it. And then Rob believes that we're going to keep going down, and Rob needs to stop talking in the third person. That sounds ridiculous. Okay. Oh, yeah. Trump going to announce Venezuela is cooked. I don't know. But not good for Venezuela, I will tell you that. Although it's a lot of oil. And when you have that much oil, you need some freedom. That's what America does. All right. This is not a political channel, so I will stay away from that subject. And that's the last I'll say of it. Let's see. Yeah. Liberty and Trust says, but Saylor told me to mortgage my house and all my belongings. I think Michael Saylor said that back when he first got in 2020. And he was talking to everybody at the Bitcoin conference, and he's like, look, you need to sell your house, you need to sell all your assets and put everything into Bitcoin. And of course, I think Michael went a little bit overboard because, Michael was thinking like everybody's a billionaire and they have a publicly listed company that actually produces services and goods. And he didn't realize that there's retail here that can't do that. And that when they do that and they take loans against their Bitcoin and they get margin called and they lose everything. So I think he learned from that. I don't think he said that again, although some of the things that Michael Saylor said before is like, we never sell your Bitcoin. You never sell your Bitcoin. It just came out from the CEO of Strategy, and he said, okay, well, we might have to sell some Bitcoin. We're probably not going to do it, but we might do it. So that kind of shook everybody up as well. I have no problems with them selling some. It's going to be bad for the overall sentiment of the market. If MicroStrategy starts to sell some, it'll be a sign of some weakness, and then people will ape in and they'll sell, because this entire market is everybody just looking at, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? I'm going to do that. I'm scared. I got to get out. That's fine. This isn't for everybody. What do you want me to do? I'm not your dad. Let's see. Oh, that's good. First comment says, hey guys, I'm right. Good news, I'm back in Costa Rica. Don't feel terrible wrong. That is good news. Congratulations. No better place than Costa Rica. My friend Jerry lives there, seems to love it. Ufer says, once Bitcoin goes below 76K, they are forced to sell and the market drops super fast. So, I mean, if we think about it, I mean, the last 3 cycles, we saw a reduction of 86% from 2013 to 2015. We saw a reduction of 85% from 2017 to 2018. And we saw a 77% drop from 2021 to 2022. So we see a little bit of a reduction every time because there's a little bit more stability in the market. And hold on, wasn't this supposed to be super stable because institutions were here? Because that didn't work out, huh? So we're down 31%. I don't see why we can't drop another 50% or go down to 50% total, and we're at 65 or 60%. As a reminder, this would be different if this actually happened. As a reminder, the Bitcoin price has never gone below the presidential election day price. And I think we could definitely hit that. And this was in November 6, 2012, you had Barack Obama. That was his second term. And Bitcoin was $10 and it never went below that, which people were still freaking out. At that point, actually, I wasn't around, so I couldn't even tell you what it really was like. 2016, Trump's first term, it never went below $707, 2016. 2020, Joe Biden, it never went below 14,133 as far as 2020. As a reminder, it went to 17,600 something. Correct me in the comments. So it was very close, but it never went below 14,000 once it hit that threshold. And then 2024, the last election was 69,000. But again, to drop 50% is not outside the realm of possibility. I think we could actually beat that. We'll see. We will see. But a good point. Yeah. But yeah, once they go below 76K and they're forced to sell, it's not so much about what they're selling, it's the optics of it. And it's what the market perceives as this is the worst thing of all time. We got to sell. It's going to happen. DATs are one of those things. The digital asset treasuries, those are, like we talked about. I mean, like we just talked about this yesterday. We took a look at all the digital asset treasuries, and it was weird that there was, I mean, there's a ton of them. I'll show you again, because I can't wrap my head around this. Of if you have treasuries, strategy being the biggest, and you got, you know, Bitcoin Miner Mara, Metaplanet, Bullish, Galaxy Digital, Coinbase Global, Hut 8 North Korea. In the last 30 days, the only ones that have bought, and there are 164 with countries included, 164 of these DATs. You've got the ones that actually bought some was Strategy, El Salvador, Eric Trump's company, American Bitcoin, ProCap, Canaan, ANOP DDC, that's 7, Hyperscale, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Only 14 out of 164 bought. And out of those 164, you had Exodus sell 245, Satsuma Tech sell 579. That's it. I just can't wrap my head. Like, if you believe in Bitcoin and what it's supposed to do, what it could be, and how it could be the massive asset and store of value, gold 2.0 that people talk about, that I still believe in, you would think that they would pick it up on these low prices, unless they're all just sitting back going, yeah, we'll wait for it to bottom. But then again, why would you do that? Unless they're all big believers in it. It just makes me crazy. Think about it too much. Dude, where's my guitar? Rob, has there ever been a red post-halving year ever? No. Let's take a look, though. I could be wrong. Let's steal some information from Ben's website. And if you like this website, there's a link in the description where you get 10% off for the first month. Fantastic. Because if you really like these sweet, sweet, beautiful fiat risk levels, which these are not my favorite, but if you like those, like we just talked about, this would be something to look at. Anyhow, let's see. As far as like years go, for post-halving years, you're looking at, well, 2012 was a great year. 2013 would be the post-halving year. You had the monthly gains of 57, 56, 176, and 50, with 2 months of red, 8 and 24, then 5 and 34. But this was a pretty green year. Next one was 2017. We had -3, then positive, then nothing but green. So that's not it. And then 2021. Because there hasn't, I mean, as far as halvings go, it's only been 2012, 2016, 2020, and 2024. So you can see that 2025, it's close, but it was negative. Is that right? $14, $11, no, 17. So yes, unfortunately. So yeah, to answer your question, no, this is just one of those weird days, weird times. The only thing that stood up is that Q4 seems to blow off top. Let's see, they won't even lower prices. Gamify states that. It does, people always talk about that, like, well, they're all trying to get lower prices so they can get in lower, and they can let it run up, and because it's gonna be the greatest thing, which I tend to think, okay, they can, but I mean, like, how long are they going to do this for? And whoever they are to get into it. Because I got to tell you, I think right now is a pretty good time to relatively at least dollar cost average it. That's just what I'm doing, not what you should do. So who knows? Let's see, Solana, buy both. Uncle Ricky. He states, if I was, and this is a good way to end this. We got to get out of here. If I was new to this crypto stuff, I'd be in the ledge. I've been in since 2017. Maybe Ricky the same one. Just another day. And yeah, it is. It's just another day. It's just another month. And again, I think that it's going to get, like I'll still say this, I think it's going to get worse. I know that there's some other prediction artists out there that say that next month's going to be awesome, but we'll see. Anyhow, if you like today's video, thumbs up, subscribe, that great stuff. I wish I could bring you better news, but it's all how you look at it. Is this the end all be all, or do you look at this and go, okay, great, cheap prices all accumulate because I'm going to be in here for years to come? I don't know what you want to do. Anyhow, like and subscribe. See you in the next one. Thanks, everybody. Adios.